Hello, everyone. This is the Duke of America speaking, also known as El Presidente, Your Royal Majesty, whatever people prefer to call me. We are back for Victoria 2, Episode 2 is the United States, the beginning of 1837. We can only go up from here. Last episode, we helped the Texans win their War of Independence, and they joined us in return. Now, I do apologize. I just played back the other two videos that I've recorded, and I noticed that the cursor, the mouse, is not actually being recorded with this. And I looked in the settings. There's nothing that I can do right now about it. I emailed Overwolf, have not received a reply yet, so I'm going to see if there's anything they can suggest I do. I also installed OBS, another program, another recording software, but I could not get that to work on Victoria 2 for the life of me. So you're just gonna have to go without a cursor for now, and I do apologize, but I'll try and keep that in mind. If I try to show you things on the map, I'll try and direct your eyes. But without further ado, let's get back to Victoria 2. Here we are in 1836. I noticed, I definitely want to invade British Canada. That is not the question. My idea is, though, I can't invade them for at least for 10 years. So my idea is ally France, because they're right next to Britain. If we can ally France and they join us, then that would be a huge blow to the Brits. But in addition, we can't fight them anyways until they sign their decision. We can't make the decision, they do, to release Caribou and give it to us as part of New England, because we have cores on it, I believe. Yes, we do. Actually, we can go to war with them over that, can't we? We can! Oh wow, that'd be hilarious. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to wait for them to give us Caribou. That way we're not as hostile as we need to be. So we'll have Caribou, but in addition to Caribou, whenever we invade Canada, I'd like to get Ontario and Quebec at the minimum. But that's going to be 10, 20 years away in game, because there's no way I can take on the British Empire with their 51 strength and my 15. I just can't do it. And plus, with India, they have pretty much unlimited men. With all the people in India they just have pretty much unlimited men that they can recruit. And they ship them from India over to the US via boat, and once they get to Canada, we're done. So, we need to build some strong alliances, and get a strong military going, and then we can get somewhere. So, there are 44 unemployed craftsmen in Texas. Is there a factory in Texas? Like I said, I was playing back those videos, and I also realized I need another factory in Pennsylvania, because Pennsylvania is one of our most populated states, second most populated, and it only has one factory. That's kind of pathetic. So, well, I can support these factories, or these railroads rather, but we also need another factory. So they have an iron factory or a steel factory. What we're going to do is look at Pennsylvania, that state right there, and see what output they have. They have iron, wheat, 2 coal pits, tobacco, and timber. So we want to build a factory that uses coal, pretty much. And their steel factory uses that. Oh, but of course, we actually need more. We don't need just more factories, we need more craftsmen. That's what I wanted to get at earlier. So take the soldier focus off of there, and that way we'll play it 2 for now, or 3, might as well. What are these navies? I'm curious. They're a man of war, a frigate. Men of war are pretty much the best ships for attacking until later on when we receive when we can build steamer ships. Ironclads. Ironclads are like the best ships, pretty much, because you can get battleships way late game, but they cost a heck of a lot more and aren't that much more effective than ironclads. So The girl from Wheeling. This happens often as well. The coal-laden tub must have weighed heavily on her body, fragile and worn from many years of arduous labor in the Wheeling coal pits, for her feet could no longer carry her. There, in the dark, where the shafts go countless fathoms deep, she slipped and fell. Another young girl has lost her life in a coal mining accident in one of our provinces, and the particular tragedy of the case has received national attention. How unfortunate. And the whole country receives national tragedy for a year, increasing local consciousness. These men are still marching to Washington. Oh, speak of the devil, we can create... Okay, we enhanced our thing in Colorado. We can enhance our thing in Oklahoma City. And I believe that's all. Oh, Wisconsin. Oh, we can make a state in Wisconsin. Do we want to make a state in Wisconsin? That's the question. Well, we made Texas a non-slave state, so I guess Wisconsin could become a slave state. I don't know exactly how to keep them in balance, because I don't know how to see what's slave state and what isn't. So, we will make Wisconsin a state. Yes. And we will make it a non-slave state. Do not extend slavery. So there we go. Wisconsin is a state. What about this? Michigan is not a state yet. Michigan is not a state. Ohio is a state. Pennsylvania is. Maryland is, but it's a slave state. West Virginia exists for some reason, even though in reality it didn't split until the Civil War. We can make a state in Iowa. Where's Iowa? Iowa. Next to Wisconsin. Let us make that and make it a non-slave state as well. I'm trying to be historically accurate here. There was one game, one of my first as the U.S., and I made pretty much the entire northwest of the United States slave states, and it was just terrible. Like, let's see, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, all of the northwestern states were pretty much slave states, so I had to go and conquer all of them. So, let us see. Our clergymen are looking good in New York. We need 2%. Craftsmen are going up in number. We can increase our influence in the USCA, which stands for United States of Central America. The friendly, right? Yes. We're doing good. We're halfway to sphering Brazil. And what I'd like to do now, we can only have one naval base per state. So, Portland is the only province on the water in Oregon, so we can expand that naval base into a level 2. And I need a western naval fleet as well, just because, so I have it. Until we build the Panama Canal, the only way around to the west coast is all the way around South America. So, I'd rather have a naval base. And also I could build some forts. How expensive are they? 11,000. Nah, I won't do that yet. But I'll do the same in Washington once it's done. We can, and we were 3 ahead, so Mexico was automatically withdrawn. Create Protectorate. And we automatically did it there. Because if we had played, they probably could have spent the colonial points wasted in Colorado over in Oklahoma. But, boom, we just got 2 new territories, and now we border Mexico completely. Put colonial points in Idaho, and we have 115 to spare. We can't do that because we're not touching Canada. Oh, we have 9 political points. I totally missed that. Let us go to France then. You see, the political points are at 9 in the diplomacy tab, but they max out at 9. So, you never want to hit 9 because then you max out and you can't get any more. So you always want to be using them to increase relations. We need to increase relations with France heavily. They're number 3 in the world. Our helping Texas got us to number 6 in the world from number 8, so that was pretty good. We want to have high relations with Prussia, because they usually ally with Britain. although they turn into Germany later. We can create a colony in Colorado. Let's do that, or the Protectorate. And Oklahoma. Apparently Oklahoma's already a slave state. We'll allow that. Do we have cores on Texas? I'm curious. We don't. But I will show you in the Politics tab, yes, we have a decision, the Manifest Destiny, to bring civilization from coast to shining coast, and that pretty much gives us core on our entire west of what is now the United States. We gain core on all of the states in that list, and that way we can go to war with Mexico for all of that. But we have to have invented Romanticism, which we're researching right now. The Benevolent Empire. One direct impact of the religious revival in the USA in the early 19th century would be the explosion in the number of voluntary organizations organized to help improve society by Is there no sentences in this, or no periods? To help improve society by tackling perceived social or moral problems in society, providing comfort to the less fortunate, or promoting self-help via education. Dubbed the Benevolent Empire by historians, these organizations help provide a community infrastructure for a society rapidly expanding in numbers and being transformed by new economic forces. For the betterment of society, all farmers, laborers, soldiers, and artisans lose 1 militancy, which is great. We can't influence Mexico because we have a truce with them right now for 5 years after a war. Okay, there's only a couple unemployed people, so that's not a big deal. Knights of the Golden Circle. I'm pretty sure this is a repetitive one for the Civil War. A secret society dedicated to promoting perceived Southern interests in the United States by the expansion of slavery. The Knights of the Golden Circle have established a chapter in Marietta. We could attempt to suppress the society, but that would be perceived by an assault on our republican traditions by the local populace. We could leave them be for a year, which gives pop militancy and local consciousness in Marietta, so the single province, or all pops in Marietta gain 1.5 consciousness. I'll leave them be for now. Where's Marietta? I'm curious. We're a free country, let them be. And our relations with Mexico are rather chilly. I don't like that, but there's nothing much we can do. I'll increase our relations with Venezuela, because I'd like to... Britain is apparently trying to sphere them as well, so I'll see. They usually do, so I should try and jump in there. See if I can't help. Oh, yep. Venezuela is accusing us of things we've never heard of. The United Kingdom is behind this. So they spent their influence points to discredit us, which means we have a slower rate. The United Kingdom is already cordial with them, so we should probably go fast if we want to succeed here. The only other one that's cordial with Colombia is the... Ooh, we can create a protectorate in Washington. Let's do it. Boom. Let's build our naval base here because it's the only one in Washington, the only province. And yeah, there we go. Let's also do that on the East Coast. Let's see. Also, I found something that was pretty funny in my opinion. Oh, we can create a colony. Yeah, we can upgrade it. So there we go. One thing that I thought was funny, because we have the one province of Bangor, we could actually release Canada. Ooh, we have a couple of things. We could actually release Canada. Politics tab, release nations. We can release Canada, which means the UK never could. So it would be kind of funny. But I'm not going to. But it would be funny. We can also release a Cherokee nation. We're not going to do that. Colombia, which is not South American Colombia with an O, but Colombia is on the west coast. I'll show you where. New England or Texas. We could release all those. And Colombia is pretty much, I guess, from Washington up to near Alaska. Let's see, it should have the core. Yeah, the blue flag, Colombia. So Colombia goes... Let me see if I can see this. Diplomacy. There. pretty much all of this land. I guess maybe most of, actually all of British Columbia is Columbian land, could be released as a country. But Washington is also included in it, so I could release it. Now we have 3 decisions. We can enact the House Gag Rule. Well, let's start. The Trail of Tears is the English rendition of the Cherokee name for the forced relocation of the Greater Cherokee Nation from its homelands in the southeastern U.S., Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, etc., to the newly established Indian territories in Oklahoma. By the Indian Removal Act of 1830, enacting this decision lies within our prerogative. Now, within history, that's a pretty bad thing, of course. We own all of Oklahoma. That was a terrible thing in our history, but what it does here, it will change the Cherokee population by 20%, negative 20%. They will gain 2 consciousness but lose 1 militancy, and they will all be moved to Tahlequah, and the Cherokee Nation will gain Tahlequah as core, Okmulgee as core, pretty much Oklahoma. And they will lose their cores on Fayetteville and Little Rock. But Cherokee is also added as an accepted culture in our country, and that is why I'm going to do it. Sorry, I have to take after Andrew Jackson. That pretty much means Cherokee is now an accepted culture in our nation. The main culture is Yankee, but we also are now acceptant of Dixie, Texan, and Cherokee. And accepted cultures pretty much means they have the right to vote in our country, among other things. Like prior to this, Cherokees could not vote, but now they're accepted, so they can. How is our nationality looking in the country as well? That's all Yankee. This is all Native American minor, but there aren't that many people living here either. There's 2,000. And then this is all Dixie and Afro-American. I believe we have to wait until the Civil War for Afro-American to become an accepted culture. We can also do the House Gag Rule and the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which are for the Civil War. The seemingly irresolvable debate over slavery threatens to tear our country apart. If we were to introduce a House Gag Rule in the House of Representatives, barring bills on the slavery issue from being presented to the House, we could hope to at least alleviate some of the worst tensions. We have to have an average consciousness of 3, and we do, and everyone in the U.S. will lose 1. By enacting the Kansas-Nebraska Act, we will effectively repeal the Missouri Compromise of 1820 and allow popular sovereignty to determine whether slavery should or should not be allowed in the former colony of Louisiana and the territories presently created out of it. Abolitionists will resent us for it, but it might be necessary to prevent the sundering of our Union. And that means all of the 4 slavery states lose consciousness, all of the against slavery states gain consciousness. So I'm not going to do either of those right now, but let us see. And then another girl lost her life, so there's that. There's only 1 port in Alabama, so we're going to upgrade that naval base for $3,500. We're also going to upgrade the one in Mississippi. Pretty much the higher naval bases you have, the better ships you can get, and the less time it takes to make ships. So that's a good thing. We can also make forts, and I'm going to build one in Washington. Oh, there is already one. Okay. Now, I can also upgrade our infrastructure, pretty much our railroads and whatnot. So, let's see. Craftsmen are looking good in Pennsylvania. New York clergyman is looking good. Prestige gain of romanticism. What to research next? We could research realism or medicine. Medicine takes 6,800 points. Realism takes 9,700. Or we could do ideological thought. Gives us an extra max national focus. I think we'll do medicine because it increases a bunch of stuff, their supply limit, and among other things. Let's do that. Medicine. Get an early game bonus out of it. How much does it cost for a railroad? Yeah, let's build a bunch of railroads in... I realized the microphone cuts out there, but I said let's make a bunch of railroads in Georgia. That's our new upper house. Let's build as many as we can in Georgia. Control-click to build in all provinces. Even though it's Georgia and South Carolina. The spirit seizes the imagination. All farmers, laborers, soldiers, and artisans become more in favor of moralism. By the mid-1830s, a wave of religious zeal was sweeping across the USA, driven by charismatic preachers who called for the faithful to return to the original teachings of the Bible and lead upstanding moral lives. The movement would spawn several new Protestant sects and lead to debates and schisms within sects over points of theology and ritual, and reinforce the power and influence of Christian teachings among the lower and middle classes of American people at the time when religious fervor in Europe was decreasing. There we go. A newspaper. Oh. In them old cotton fields. And the cotton in Wilmington is of the highest possible quality and strength. So strong, in fact, is the Wilmington cotton that the white balls harvested there begun building quite a reputation for themselves as being some of the best available in the world. The reputation is built for quite some time, and local farmers have begun taking pride in the fact that, in the world of cotton, Wilmington is byword for quality. Rock Me in My Cradle, which gives us prestige, or Send Some to Our Neighbors, where we gain 2 prestige. We lose 10 cotton in our stockpile, but our relationship with Wallachia and the United States is changed by 15. I assume and this is why sometimes I do this, I search for the specific provinces. Let me see, do they have any... It's in North Carolina. Do they have any militancy? They do. They have 1 militancy. So let's remove it. There we go. Should have removed that 1 militancy. I don't know. Okay. Now, with Romanticism being researched, we can get Manifest Destiny. To bring civilization from coast to shining coast has always been the grand mission of our great republic. Let the eagle spread its wings. We have invented Romanticism. Prestige at least 50. Texas exists, and Austin is not owned by Mexico. My question is, do we want to do this now or after we attack Canada? I think we should do it now, even though it will severely hurt our relations with Mexico. Let's do it now. There we go. Manifest Destiny. And now we can war with Mexico for our West Coast territories. Which is okay. I'd like to get the rest of Texas and maybe California, because we all know the gold rush is coming, even if they don't. There's some more slave... Oh man, our consciousness jumped, but... And boom. Our consciousness has jumped up, but that's okay. I can read these and definitely do them later. Oh, this comes up frequently as well. Holy site disturbed. Things have gone from bad to worse in Great Falls, where the colonial police, while in pursuit of 2 local suspects of murdering a colonial officer, have happened to disturb a shrine of some importance to local religiosity. Natives in the area are infuriated over their perceived lack of respect for their religion. Who gives a hoot about their religion anyways, where everyone in Montana not belonging to Christianity will gain 5 militancy, or their beliefs must be respected, where they gain 2 consciousness and 3 militancy. And we want to pretty much always go with that one because it gives them less militancy. And also considering most people in Montana are Native American, so they're not Christian. 1 newspaper. The fears of the Netherlands against Prussia. The benevolent... Oh, what's this? Unitarianism in America. I believe that's Jesus sitting with his hand up. The rise of numerous sects within Protestant Christianity in the USA in the early 19th century would create an environment for further theological speculation. One of the most influential movements to arise from this would be American Unitarianism. emphasizing the role of reason in understanding theology and thus rejecting the concept of the Trinity, and the inherent goodness of humanity and its capability for improvement because of reason. Unitarianism would become very influential among middle and upper class populations in the northeastern USA and encourage several movements of social improvement from public education to abolitionism. Faith and reason can be reconciled to improve humanity, and all liberals gain one consciousness. That's bad for us. So yeah, this is what's going on in the world. Benevolent Empire, decimortization. Anyways, Secessionist Sentiments. This is going to happen about like 20 times. Pretty much every southern state. Talk of secession from the Union can be heard on the streets of Biloxi, which is in Mississippi. Yeah, I believe. In fact, all over Mississippi there is talk of secession as fewer and fewer feel that a meaningful compromise protecting that peculiar institution, i.e. slavery, of the South can be reached in a climate where Congress moves increasingly toward a position of favoring political reform. Rebel scum. The CSA, Confederate States of America, will gain all of Mississippi as a core. All population in Mississippi become 20% more in favor of slavery allowed, and they all gain one militancy. That happens a lot for all the southern states pretty much before the war starts. Pretty much a sign that the war's coming. Oh, yep, here we go. Before we do that, though, let's increase our relations with France. Are they in a war with someone? Oh, they are. They're trying to eat part of Algeria, which is okay with us. This game, we're not going after any part of Africa, I don't think. So, North Carolina also has CSA cores. So don't be alarmed. That happens to pretty much all of them. Chicago. Oh, that's a different one. Pops in Alabama. Oh, this also happens. One of the impacts of the religious revival in the USA in the early 19th century would be sustained campaigns against perceived vices by those who believed they were doing God's work by attempting to stamp out such behavior. Saloons were often a favorite target of such crusaders, and on occasion saloons and their patrons would be physically attacked by zealots. Wickedness must be stamped out. All Protestants in Chicago will gain consciousness, become 2% more in favor of moralism, and become 4% more in favor of secularized. Well, we can create a state in Michigan. Oh, Florida, CSA, darn. Okay, so let's create a state in Michigan and make it a non-slave state. Do not extend slavery. I should probably start getting some slave states as well. Louisiana, because none of these are slave states, I just realized, and we're making more non-slave up in the north. Virginia. So, Georgia's already a state. All these are states. North Carolina, Tennessee. Oh, they're all already states. I thought they weren't. Florida isn't. I'll leave the clergymen in New York for right now and put bureaucrats in Florida. And what that does is that encourages bureaucrats, which are needed to make a state. At least 1% of the population needs to be bureaucrats of an accepted culture in order to convert this colonial possession to a full state. Rebel scum in Maryland. That's okay. Georgia. Usually it doesn't happen this early to me, but that's alright. We gained another possible brigade. We're going to take advantage of that. How is our population doing? Population. The electorate vote looks okay. Arkansas joining the CSA. So, yeah, also, before I forget, one more I would like to start influencing is Hawaii, because there is an event that allows us to annex Hawaii, but only if they're in our sphere. Scientists in our country have discovered Romanticist music. The Romanticists finally broke with the classical demands on strictness and correctness. By celebrating and exploring human emotions and imagination, they set the path for future artistic movements in the 19th and early 20th century. Of the Romanticist era, a few composers stand out against the rest. Ludwig van Beethoven, Friedrich Chopin, and Franz Schubert were among those. We got 5 prestige. This, clad in her white dress, strolling down the streets of Roanoke, her radiance, nobility, and simple beauty churns heads. Speaking, her gentleness, kindness, hospitality, and accent, all draped in the flavors of magnolias, soft cotton, and southern verandas, do the same. Virtue, honor, and dignity in manifest form, such are the women of the South. A toast to Dixie. I suppose that's a personification of the South, Dixie. Like the USA as a whole had Mercury, I guess, for a while, the Lady Liberty. And so, to our knights is who gains consciousness, aristocrats and capitalists, or craftsmen and laborer. And so, for these, I usually go into the province itself. This is Roanoke, which I believe is in Virginia. What we do is see there's farmers, 44% slaves, so there's pretty much little of either, honestly. Roanoke, there's pretty much none of anything. There's a tiny bit of clergymen, that's it. So yeah, so it doesn't really matter in that case. But later on, when there's a province that has mostly craftsmen, we want to do where less people gain consciousness, and there are 6 in our country right now, so I think I might have to, excuse me, wickedness must be stamped out. We can do the Clay and Douglas draft, which removes 2 consciousness. We can do the lose 1 consciousness. That's pretty much all it does. A Fugitive Federal Slave Act, all populace in the non-slave states. Oh no, those are the slave states. They lose 2 consciousness. One thing that we're not going to do is the Ostend Manifesto, which is the Ostend Manifesto. Politician and lawyer Horace Mann began his reforms of the educational system of Massachusetts. His system of schools became a model for the entire United States. You can never be too educated. We gain research points. Nice. One we're not doing is the Ostend Manifesto. It proposes that the island of Cuba should be annexed to the United States as a slave state to balance the expected influx of new free states in the West. By supporting the manifesto, we can calm tension over the slavery issue domestically, but it might reduce our standing with the European great powers significantly. Missouri got slave corps. The thing with this is, you see, that sounds fine and dandy, but then we lose 150 relation between all of the European great powers, and that is every other one, so that is not an option. Not an option at all. We also gain 6 infamy, so no. Rebel scum from the District of Columbia, which I find like hysterical actually, but in the war they don't get the District of Columbia. So let's increase our relations with France so we can eventually become an ally. Hopefully, if they break their alliance with Austria. The Brazilians are trying to liberate their own land. Let's see if we can give them more subsidies, and that will help them a little bit. So, because it's their own land, they have cores on it. The Brazilian Amazonas, I believe it's this right there. Yeah. Rebel scum, West Virginia. That actually has me laughing because in reality West Virginia was formed during the Civil War because they split from Virginia itself because they didn't want to be a slave state. Kentucky. Alright. And so, even though these ships aren't done yet, or these ports, we have $40,000. Our employment numbers are very low. We can we sphere for Columbia? We can. Add to sphere. And so I can reduce that, increase Venezuela. Hopefully we can beat out the Brits. And I'm keeping a one bar influence on there so we can rise slowly and eventually hit 100 influence, which is the cap. And once we hit the cap of 100, we can turn that off, and that basically is just a back plan, a plan B, in case anybody starts to influence Colombia. We can just use our 100 points to affect them, either discrediting them, expelling their advisors, or banning their embassies. So that's what we can use those 100 points for, and then we just regenerate them afterwards. And that's why I leave a 1 bar influence on our sphere, on our sphered places. And we're about to be able to sphere Brazil as well. Alrighty. At the end of this year, I'm going to end off this episode. Our ambassador to one of the other great powers has telegraphed home expressing his frustration with the response, or rather lack of it, that he has received while trying to settle a bilateral extradition treaty with the country in question. Apparently our ambassador has been snubbed repeatedly by this foreign administration and has been delegated to speaking to civil servants instead of being allowed direct access to the country's decision makers. This diplomatic back and forth has been going on for 2 months. We can gain a humiliate casus belli on Prussia, where we lose 5 prestige and our relationship with Prussia changes by 20, or we can send an official letter thanking them for their time and end negotiations, which changes our relations by 20 and we gain 1 prestige. We're going to go with the second one because we don't want to go all the way over to Europe just to get beat by the Germans, like, truthfully. A casus belli is pretty much a cause for war. That's pretty much what a casus belli is. Oh, for a second I thought that was the Texan flag. I was like, wait, what? It's Chile. Now we can sphere Brazil. And I will add the second on the USCA and Hawaii. Because once we sphere Hawaii, later on we can also annex them. So that's helpful. Copperheads. That's just local consciousness, so we have more important concerns for the Copperheads. What other countries should we start sphering? Pardon my English, I'm talking fast. I don't want to sphere Bolivia yet. They're a presidential dictatorship. Ecuador is a democracy. We could sphere them. We could sphere... Nah. I'd rather not sphere the presidential dictatorships yet. Hopefully they get overthrown. Chile is a democracy. Chile. So let's work on those two, Ecuador and Chile. As well as Venezuela and the United States of Central America. Hawaii doesn't need a big amount right now, so there we go. At the end of this year, I'm going to end off this episode, but I think we've gotten a little bit done. We're starting to get the ball rolling for things. We got a railroad built. Can we fund any project? Yes, we can build railroads. We can shift left-click to invest in both of them, in all projects. And I don't mind investing in stuff like this at all, because, you know, railroads are necessary. A glass factory in Georgia. We have no factories at all in Georgia. How many people in Georgia are... Ew, Texas. Okay, rebel scum. What I'm going to do, actually, in case the war does break out, I'm going to put it on my troops on their capital of Richmond. Wait. Okay. I'll put my troops there on their capital of Richmond. And so if the war starts, we can automatically capture their capital. Encourage bureaucrats in Florida. We have 0.86%. We need 1 whole percent. And we'll make them a slave state, unfortunately, just because, you know, that's how stuff goes. Because Florida already has CSA cores, so we might as well make them a slave state. As for our upper house, can outlaw slavery, but if I remember, that'll probably automatically start the war if we can actually do it. Wickedness must be stamped out. Okay, so that's pretty much the results of an election. 90% Democratic, which is what we want, and some from the Whigs. This has been a little bit of a longer episode, I'm sorry, but we've been through 2 years this time instead of just one, so that's why. I'll try and stay sped up a little bit, maybe on 3 for most of it, just to keep things entertaining. The Brits are starting to build up defenses here, the Canadians, I guess. Quebec can be its own country, by the way, which is interesting. So can Newfoundland. And the nationality of those are mostly Anglo-Canadian, or, oh, Cree apparently. French-Canadian, Anglo-Canadian are also places. Hopefully soon the Brits will give us Caribou. And I don't like unemployment, but literally if there's 1 or 2 unemployed people in a whole state, I mean, it's like, who cares? It's just meh. We can increase our thing in Venezuela. We're now cordial, the same level as Britain, which means they're... Oh, I should have saved it up until we had like 80. That way we could have kicked the Brits. Oh well. They might start trying to rival us now, but that's alright. And I should probably start focusing my sphering more. If we can get super high relations with France, that'd be good, because I'm really hoping we can get them as an ally. Because if so, they're so close to Britain, if the, you know, that it would be pretty easy. That's all their influencing stuff, get rid of it all. We're so close, 0.95% on the right side. Oh, we can ally Colombia, let's do that. Although our relationship with Mexico kind of sucks now. Oh, I forgot, we should probably increase our relations. But we want to go to war. Yeah, if we want to go to war, there's no reason to really increase our relations. We built the railroad. And so, maybe, just maybe by the time this year ends, we can make Florida a state. A slave state, rather, but still a state, nonetheless. Maybe not. 10 days left. Ooh. Ooh, oh, ooh, so close, 7 days, yep, oh, they might not all be accepted culture. Oh yeah, it is, 1%, we have 12 colonial points, so why can't I make it a state? I'll wait till we get one. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to wait here just a second, guys. I'm sorry. I just want to see if we can do it after we hit 1.1. Yeah, why can't... Oh, we can. There we go. And to end off this episode, let us make Florida a state. Unfortunately, while I hate to do it, I'm going to follow history and I'm going to make Florida a slave state. Extend slavery. Boom. There we go. Florida is now a slave state. We can put our focus back on somewhere else for clergymen. We can put our encouragement right here for clergymen in Ohio. And that'll be the end of this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like, a comment, whatever. We're slowly... I mean, before we can even think about attacking Canada, we have to form our own union first. We have to take care of the things at home, and then we can worry about Canada. We have to forge alliances. We have to take care of Mexico. And so I'm thinking we'll have to take out Canada after our Civil War. It'll give us time to take back our land, or take land from Mexico, and get all of our land organized. So, get South America sphered and allied with us, and I think that'll definitely help us out. So, I hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as I have. We are now number 4 in the world, right behind France. Diplomacy. We are now number 4 in the world. Oh. France overtook Russia, so we're closing in on them. So mainly our prestige. Usually in games that I play, that's what gets me into like first and second, is just the prestige alone. So our military isn't looking very good, though. We need to start increasing that. But if you've enjoyed this episode, leave a like, comment. Like I've said, I'm truly sorry about the mouse issue. I know you see those little flashy things right above the map. I'm sorry, that's just where my mouse is hovering over. I do apologize about that. I'm going to try and get that sorted out so you can actually see the cursor, because it is kind of an important thing in here. But I hope it's bearable for now. And until next time, went silent because I can't think of anything. Oh well. Until next time, this has been the Duke of America, signing off.